I am obsessed with Expedition 33's gameplay. Even after finishing the game, I just could not stop playing it. In this video, I'm going to try and explain why Clair Obscur's combat is one of, if not the best turn-based system of all time. Of the many RPGs I've played, at least half of them are turn-based. Some of my favorites include Final Fantasy, Fire Emblem, Persona, and Dragon Quest. However, if you were to ask me why I love these games, I would probably begin with either the lore or the characters before mentioning the combat. That's because turn-based combat isn't everyone's cup of tea. In many of these games, the story takes precedent over gameplay. In other words, players grind the combat to see the story. The main issues that I hear are turn-based combat is too slow and simplistic, that leveling up with mindless grinding trumps strategy, and it takes no skill with little player interaction. This is where Expedition 33 comes in. My first impression is that the combat is a simple amalgamation of Persona 5, Final Fantasy X, and Lost Odyssey's combat system. However, the more I played it, the more I understood that 33 has a uniqueness that makes the gameplay far more engaging than the others. First, the AP, or ability points. In order to perform any action, AP is required. Balancing the charges is the main basis of every encounter. Do you want to risk doing damage now, or save it for a more powerful spell? This mechanic is a bit like Final Fantasy VII Remake's ATB system, but in a turn-based combat rather than action-oriented. Next is the quick combat. While you do get unlimited time to decide which action to perform, most animations are less than a few seconds, save for a few overpowered ones. Not only are each attacks unique to look at, but the camera angle also highlights each specific button input, which keeps the player more engaged. 33 also took note of Lost Odyssey by adding the QTE to its combat system. Every attack, except for the base attack, has these button inputs that if you input correctly, you will be rewarded with extra damage or an extra hit. This mechanic doesn't require skill, but it does keep the player on their toes. What does require skill is the dodging and parrying mechanic, and this is where I really fell in love with 33's gameplay. Every attack in this game can be dodged or parried, and if you do, you are greatly rewarded. Because there's a limited quantity on items, and you only have one mage, the game pushes the player to get good at this mechanic, and on higher difficulty, it's a requirement, something that I learned personally. Essentially, you can beat this game untouched if you have the skill, where in traditional RPGs, skill is more evident on setups and builds. Speaking of builds, the amount of pictos in this game is insane. Pictos are accessories that grant stat buffs and also specific abilities. Want to have 2 turns instead of 1? Beat this guy and you can get it. The more pictos you have, the more powerful you become, and some builds can essentially break the game. This is one of the core essence of what makes RPGs so fun. Last will be the playable characters, as in their gameplay mechanics. Although there's only 5 party members, they all have depth and no one plays similarly to another. Each has their own unique way of dealing damages, buffs, debuffs, and abilities. This is why even after finishing the game, I just couldn't wait to jump back in to face the optional bosses. You know how there's a genre called action RPG, where the gameplay is action-oriented but has RPG mechanics? Expedition 33 might be the first RPG action game, at least the first that I've played. And if this is the next evolution of the turn-based combat system, then sign me up.